hello to my little friend.
Hello there and welcome to Strength for Tomorrow Radio. I am Stuart Thompson and thank you for tuning in. The pleasure truly is all mine. I have to apologise about last week's episode. One listener very kindly let me know that there were a few minutes missing near the beginning, just total silence apparently, which was a shame because I think those were the best bits, and you just have to take my word for it. But it should be fixed now, it should be up now. So if I let you down last week, if your whole week swung upon this podcast and listening to it and how good it was going to be and you missed it, I do apologise. It won't happen again. Well, actually, I can't say that. It might happen again. Hopefully it won't happen again. Do let me know if it does happen again. It's kind of raw and real. I don't really go over and edit it like a lot of podcasters do. Kind of one take, one go, whatever comes out of my mouth, that's the way it is. Some people spend ages editing. Not for me. I just hate listening to the sound of my own voice. So yeah, thank you for listening to the sound of my voice if you're still listening. So we've had some new faces recently start with us in the gym. I've had a couple of new clients starting in Drumore, which has been great. And I've also had some new class members starting with us in Warren Point in the large group classes in Atomic, Total Body Toning and Power. Yeah, it's been brilliant. But there are still some spots available. So if you would like to start training and getting stronger, starting some preventative health care, we would love to talk to you. So if you currently train with us, do let your family and friends know as well that there is an opportunity to train with us. So do drop us an email, info@crossfunctionalfitness.co.uk, or check out our website and you'll find more information there. But get in contact with us and have a chat. If we need to answer any of your questions, we'd love to do that. So today we're going to discuss a few issues that seem to be coming up more and more these days. For one thing, your thyroid. Yes, yours specifically. Just kidding. That'd be creepy. Overactive thyroid, underactive thyroid, how this affects you, and specifically how it affects you if you're trying to lose weight or to lose fat. We're also thinking about your metabolism, how it works, and how aging impacts this. So stick around and don't forget to share on Facebook and Instagram, or share with your friends on WhatsApp or text message or whatever. So yeah, stick around for the best bit coming up. So first of all, underactive thyroid, or hypothyroidism as the medical term is. So this is from the NHS website, this first little part. An underactive thyroid gland, hypothyroidism, is where your thyroid gland does not produce enough hormones. Common signs of an underactive thyroid are tiredness, weight gain, and feeling depressed. Also being sensitive to the cold, dry skin and hair, and also muscle aches. So apparently about 5% of Americans are estimated to have it. So it's 5 in every 100 Americans have it, and in the UK 1 in 70 women and 1 in 1,000 men have it in the UK. So there's a lot more women tend to have it than men. So I'm just wanting you to understand what the difference is. And then overactive thyroid, that's hyper, so not hypo, hyperthyroidism. And overactive thyroid can affect anyone, but it's about 10 times more common in women than men, and typically happens between age 20 and 40 years of age. An overactive thyroid can cause a wide range of symptoms, including nervousness, anxiety and irritability, mood swings, difficulty sleeping, persistent tiredness and weakness, sensitivity to heat, swelling in your neck from an enlarged thyroid gland, an irregular and or unusually fast heart rate, twitching or trembling, and weight loss. So there's pretty major differences. They're pretty much the opposite, aren't they? Directly opposed to each other. So it's the hypothyroidism, that's the one that we tend to hear more about. So having an underactive thyroid, and it is almost always women who tend to have it. But I want to look at how much of an impact does this have on weight loss. Lots of people, lots of women in particular, but lots of people will say, I can't lose any weight, I can't lose any fat because of my thyroid. Now, whenever you do that, what happens is you're making yourself powerless. You're making yourself weak. You're making yourself a victim, and you probably don't want to hear this. If you're listening to this and you do suffer from this, you probably don't want to hear this. But it's important. The other thing I should say is there's not very many people, so that's not a lot of people. That's not a huge percentage of people. 1 in 70 women in the UK. It's not a lot. It's not a huge amount, but it's significant. So it's important to get your bloods checked. It's important to go to your GP if you do think that you are suffering from this. But it's also important not to play the victim and not to kind of throw all your toys out of the pram and say, I can't lose weight, so I'm not even going to try. We find now that, you know, regardless, like weight gain happens. It says that weight gain happens if you've got an underactive thyroid. Okay, it's not that your metabolism has slowed down by such a dramatic amount that this is happening. And even if it did, here's what we're going to do about it. Here's what you can do. Okay, you can formulate a plan. You've basically consumed too many calories, regardless. Okay, so if your normal rate of burning should be 1,500 a day, but maybe you're only burning 1,300 a day. Okay, maybe you're burning that. We'll break it down into even more detailed numbers, but it's not a lot different. But what it does mean is that you have to be more accurate in how you track your calories. For someone else who doesn't have this condition, they can maybe get away with estimating, chancing it, you know, hoping for the best whenever it comes to tracking calories. But it just means you have to be a little bit more diligent in tracking your calories. But the same thing applies, the same principles apply, that you don't throw that out the window. Now, obviously, if it's so severe that you need to get hormones replacement, you need to be on some sort of medication for that, chat your GP by all means. GPs love me for saying, recommend people go to them for all this, but it's important. You need to go and get sorted out. You shouldn't have to live with it, and there can be pretty bad consequences if you don't get it looked at. So do get it sorted. Don't just put up with it and accept this is your fate. So your underactive thyroid, it isn't the main reason that you're overweight. It did maybe contribute a little bit, slightly, but we need to talk about things like who has a slow metabolism, who has hypothyroidism, and who just simply cannot lose weight. And it all comes down to your calories that you burn in a day. So say you're 15 stone and you burn maybe 3,000 calories a day. That's made up of a few different elements. So one of them is your metabolism, so calories you burn at rest, so maybe 1,400. Maybe exercise, maybe go for walks, maybe go to the gym, just getting your steps in, maybe that's 1,000 in total. Maybe non-exercise, so like just fidgeting, doing your work, just, you know, not really doing very, just walking about the house, doing the dishes, cleaning the house, those sort of things. Maybe you burn a few more doing that, so 350 calories maybe. And then what about just your digestive system? Maybe you burn a couple of 100 calories there, 250 let's say. So total calorie burn 3,000. Okay. Hyperthyroidism only affects your metabolism. So studies show only in extreme, like the really extreme cases, not everyone who has hypothyroidism this applies to, but extreme cases, the worst cases, this is maybe down regulated by about 10 to 15%. So if the average woman, say they burned 1,400 calories, you're now looking at a worst case scenario. You're only burning 1,190 calories. Like it's significant, it's not loads, but it's a little bit. But let's be realistic here, right? You're probably not the worst case scenario. There's probably people who have it worse than you, okay? I'm like Job's comforter, aren't I? I'm just like, you know, it could be worse, like, you know. But seriously, you're also probably on medication to counter this. You know, doctors will pretty much hand out medication for hypothyroidism pretty easily now. Because of the negative impact it has on us in so many ways. This can make your metabolism actually tick over a little bit faster, believe it or not. So, in other words, it'll tick over faster than potentially that you used to burn. So, if you're usually burning 1,400 calories, you might even be burning a little bit faster. You might be burning 1,500 calories. So, in one sense, it should make it actually easier to lose weight, to get leaner. But no one ever wants to talk about that. No one ever wants to talk about that side of it. If they're on medication, you've got a hormonal advantage now. You're burning at a higher rate. But don't ignore that bit. That's important. But let's say you are the worst case scenario. Let's say you are. So say your metabolism is only 1,190 calories, right? you're burning at rest. Say you exercise, you still get 1,000 calories burnt just walking about in the gym. Say from not even exercising, just fidgeting about and, you know, whatever else, typing on the computer, whatever else, on your phone. Then say you're burning more, say 350, and then say you're also burning calories whenever you're digesting the food, say 250 still. Those things don't change, okay? Your metabolism is one of the things that might change, but the rest of the things don't. So your total, your new calorie burn would actually be 2,790. Okay, now let's say that you're calorie counting, which if you're trying to lose weight is a pretty important one, and you're consuming 2,000 calories. Are you now claiming that your slow metabolism is offsetting a further 790 calories? 790 calories is a huge amount. So to think that that amount is actually the amount that you're not burning because of your metabolism, I'm sorry, but it is diluted. It is diluted. You'd be like a medical marvel. They'd be doing studies on you for decades if that was the case. Okay, there's some people do claim that, you know, they're gaining when they're dieting, but the claims are crazy. They really are crazy, because a lot of the time they're not looking at the average. They're looking at the 5 days during the week that they're tracking, so Monday to Friday, and then they go off the rails of the weekend. They eat pizzas, they eat takeaways, they have drinks, they have fries, this, that, and the other. Could that be you? I don't know. I'll let you answer that, but this is what's happening. Basically, you gain most of your weight, like 90% of it plus, from eating too much crap and not moving very much. Tell me I'm wrong, but there's probably people listening to this and going, "That's not me. How dare you, Stuart?" Maybe it's not you, but if you're listening to this and going, "How does he know?" He knows who I am. Like, he's like listening, and he's like talking right into my brain. It can give you a lot of comfort to just go, "Oh, it's my slow metabolism, or it's my thyroid." It can make you feel better, right, for a while. But what also makes people feel better for a while is going and comfort eating. Okay, whenever you feel stressed, whenever you feel down, I've done it. We all do it. We've all done it from time to time. It can feel better for it. It just like soothes us. Go, "Oh, it's not my fault. It's not my fault." But in reality, your slower metabolism is only a little bit of a factor. Okay. It's like someone switching your milk. You think you're taking semi-skimmed and somebody's pouring full fat milk into your semi-skimmed milk carton, and you think you're that's the same thing. It would slow you down a little bit, but it wouldn't be big enough factor to put you into a calorie surplus. The real damage happens, I guess, whenever you try to continue laying that blame for the reason that you're not losing weight. That's when you can really go downhill, because your metabolism, your thyroid, slow metabolism, it's not the reason why you can't lose. If you track it, like I said at the start, and you're really diligent in tracking it, you just need to be a little bit more careful than the average person. So if you are in this 1 in 70 women or 1 in 1,000 men in the UK who has a underactive thyroid, you maybe should track. If you're trying to lose weight, you need to track. You need to be more accurate. You need to be more diligent. You need to be more careful with it. But you do the same thing. Okay, there's no other magic solution, and certainly the option is not to give up. The option is not just to go, "Well, I'm always going to be like this." Unless you want to shorten your lifespan, unless you want to be uncomfortable, unless you want to risk your health, that's an option, I suppose. But this is maybe a better pill to swallow for some people listening. This is like, you're maybe calling me all sorts of things and thinking all sorts of things about me for stating this, but this is the way it is. Don't shoot the messenger. Shoot me if you want to, it's fine, but I'll take it. But hear me out, because this is the truth. It's sometimes a hard pill to swallow, but hey, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to give up? Are you going to just give up and just accept that your fate, or are you going to try? Are you going to do what we always suggest here and try and track your calories? Be accurate with it. Think of the average. Don't just think of 5 days, Monday to Friday, and then give up. Try and think of the bigger picture. Try and think of the month. So if you have 3 meals a day, that's 3 times 7. By my calculations, that's 21 meals a week. Think of the average of that. Are you overeating all of those 21? it's not just your one dessert you have maybe at a weekend or something, or your one takeaway you had in the month. It's the daily things, it's the little habits, and those are the things that tend to put on weight for a lot of people. You just need to figure out what it is for you. And like I always say to clients, I want you to do an audit. I want you to audit your calories, calories in, calories out. Calories out's the easy one in some ways, but calories in can be the tricky one. Once you do it once though, it's a lot easier to keep doing it then. Figure out how many calories your body needs, track it, and this is all in one of the earlier episodes we did about fat loss, the truth about fat loss versus weight loss. But I think it was like a third episode in, but track your calories, track them against what your body needs each day. So say you work out your metabolism, you need about 2,000 calories a day. Make sure you're not over that. Make sure you're under that a little bit, just a little bit. If you go too aggressive, it doesn't work. So you need to go under that a little bit. Say you try and stick to an average of 1,750. Cool. Make sure that at the end of the month or the end of the week you add up all your totals every day and divide it by the number of days and see where you're at. Hopefully it's around 1,750. It shouldn't be more than 2,000 certainly. And if it is, you've probably put on weight. But say at the end of the month you've stuck to that 1,750, and then you've either put on weight or you're still about the same weight. Then we need to be a little bit more aggressive with our calorie deficit. You maybe need to shave off a little bit more, or you maybe need to add in a few more steps. But either way, you need to try and counteract your slightly slowed metabolism, your 10 to 15% metabolism in the worst case scenario, and do that either with a little bit more exercise, so gentle exercise. You don't have to bust yourself, you don't have to do loads of burpees or do anything crazy. Just do a bit more walking. Take the dog out. If you haven't got a dog, go and get a dog and take it for a walk. Take someone else's dog for a walk even. People love you walking their dog because they get lazy. They're taking away their steps then, I guess. But you know what I mean? You need to offset that slower metabolism somewhere, whether it's intake of calories or whether it's output of calories. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I haven't offended too many people by saying all of this. If you want to know more about this sort of stuff and you really want to get in depth, check out Team RH on Facebook. I want to give them credit because they do great work, and he swears quite a bit, but the guy, I think it's Richie, you call him, he's pretty up to date on all this stuff, and he's really effective in how he communicates the message, and yeah, check out more there. So what if you haven't got an underactive or an overactive thyroid? What if your thyroid is absolutely fine, it's in spanking good order? What about your metabolism? But lots of us assume that our metabolism slows down a lot as we age, but there's a study, and it's not out, it's maybe out a few months, not out very long, and it was conducted by 80 scientists. They used over 6,000 test subjects from 29 countries, and they ranged it from birth to 95 years old, the participants were, and they actually found that from the ages of 20 to 60 years of age, your metabolism basically does not change at all. Isn't that crazy? So 20 years old to 60 years old. So the whole middle age spread thing, we can't use that as a reason as to why we're putting on weight, unfortunately. It actually only decreases about 0.7% every year after you turn 60. So at 80 years old, that would be about a 15% reduction. So your metabolism will slow down by 15%. So a bit like having an underactive thyroid, essentially, by the time you're 80. But also you probably have less of an appetite then. So that kind of offsets it as well, makes things a bit easier. But also, if you were to actually build a little bit of muscle, like 5 to 10 pounds of muscle as you aged, that would also counter the 15% reduction. That would go a long way to do that. So it's kind of unfortunate that's been proved now by science. That's pretty conclusive. It's a pretty major study, 6,000, 29 countries, birth to 95 years old, 80 scientists involved in it. It's a pretty major study, and it's time to accept that if we have put on a bit of fat, it's not because of our age, it's not because we've spent more time on the planet circling the sun, it's because we have moved less for a significant period of time than we used to, or we've ate more than we used to. One of the two, maybe both. There's nothing wrong with our metabolism. We just have to let it go. We just have to kind of go, well, that's that then, eh? And also, if you're going through menopause, it's absolutely zero effect. Now, that can be misconstrued. I'm not saying it doesn't have an effect. It doesn't slow your metabolism down. What it actually does is it causes hormonal changes, which can make you feel more tired. It can make you feel more hungry. It can make you want to move less and want to eat more. So it's kind of crap news, but it's also really, really amazing news, because it means that it's in your control. You're not just on the fate of the sun, the Earth circling the sun. So the good news is you're not a medical marvel. You're not some sort of incredibly unique freak. We're basically all accountable, aren't we, for our weight gain? So that's good news, I guess. You can either accept it and start working harder to try and counter it. You can do that and start doing that now, or you can just give up and just kind of stay gaining weight, getting more uncomfortable, having to buy new clothes, not fitting into airplane seats, putting lots of pressure in your heart, on your veins and your organs and your arteries. I don't know, it's up to you. It's up to me as well. Now, the reason I'm sharing all this is because these are topics that people are thinking about, people ask about, and people have in their heads these myths. And I really wanted to share this, not because I want to kind of hammer everybody, because it speaks to me too. Listen, I'm not as lean as I used to be either, whenever I was 20, but that's life, eh? Now, you can look up this study. It is kind of behind a paywall, but you can kind of get the gist of it. But that's basically it. So to summarise, our metabolism doesn't really change from ages 20 to 60. After that, it slows down by 0.7% a year. Age isn't the reason that we're carrying more weight in our 30s, 40s, and our 50s and beyond than we did in our 20s, and we simply just moved less and consumed more calories. Don't shoot the messenger, okay? Again, don't shoot the messenger. As I said, I don't want to accept that either, because it would be nice to have something else to blame apart from being me. I'm 34 now. I'm not as lean as I was when I was 24. But it's the truth. The important thing is kind of how we react to this. What are we going to do about it? Are we going to try and offset it? Are we going to try and figure out a nutrition strategy? Or are we going to try and lift some weights, build a bit of muscle, help create more active tissue so that we can burn more calories at rest, speed up our metabolism? What's the answer going to be? It's News of the Week time, and this is a story from Live Science website, published 9 days ago, which would have been 19. So yeah, Tuesday the 19th. So probably should have been last week's show by all accounts, but it's in this show, so no harm done. It's by Amber Sayer. I like giving credit to people because they put the effort into coming up with this story. I'm just ripping it off for the purpose of this podcast and informing you and your entertainment sometimes. The title of it is, Does Cardio Kill Gains? Here's what the science says. It always worries me whenever someone says, here's what the science says, as if it's as clear cut as my interpretation of the science is always the correct one. But, whatever. An exercise physiologist separates fact from fiction to answer, does cardio kill gains? Does cardio kill gains? There's a common belief in the fitness community that cardio workouts inhibit gains or muscle growth, and research shows conflicting evidence in terms of the potential for endurance exercise or cardio to inhibit the muscular adaptations made by resistance training. To help make sense of the research and science about the possible downsides of concurrent training, doing cardio and weight training together in one workout session, we spoke to Heather Hart, an ACSM certified exercise physiologist, RRCA certified running coach, and co-owner of Heart Strength and Endurance Coaching. So, whether you like running, cycling, or using one of the best rowing machines to get a good sweat, keep reading to learn how to maximize your results in the gym. Oh, it was just a little bit of a cliffhanger there. Make you read on to the next paragraph to get more clicks, to get more money. That's the way to do it. Does cardio inhibit muscle gains? Hart says the evidence is mixed when it comes to whether or not cardio can impede muscular adaptations to weightlifting and other strength training workouts. Numerous studies have shown that concurrent training, cardio and strength training together may result in decrements in strength, power, and muscular hypertrophy, while other studies show that adding cardio to resistance training may not inhibit strength or muscular gains, says Hart. For example, a recent review in Sports Medicine of studies examining the potential deleterious, that's a great word, deleterious effects of concurrent training on muscle and strength adaptations concluded that concurrent training is only detrimental to explosive strength but not overall muscle hypertrophy or strength development. So that kind of, in one sense, it makes sense because your muscles fast twitch, slow twitch muscle fibers. If you're always training them slow twitch, like a long cardio event, then this is going to curb your explosiveness if you're trying to do like a clean and jerk or a snatch or something explosive. In a 2018 review published in the Sports Journal, sorry, my voice went a bit funny there, it found that certain types of cardio exercises such as HIIT seem to display less or no negative effect on resistance training induced muscle adaptations. Why might cardio inhibit increases in muscle size and strength? Your potential mechanisms underlying why cardio exercise may counteract some of your hard work in the gym are explained by Hart. She says the first potential reason that cardio can interfere with the molecular pathways responsible for adaptations to strength training. So it's a pretty long explanation, but basically the translation is you aren't losing muscle mass, but you aren't gaining it either. So it's interesting. I don't want to go into it, it's pretty long and it's pretty wordy. I want to keep it kind of light because, listen, this isn't a science class, this is a podcast. Bit of entertainment, bit of information, but I don't want to bore you to sleep at the same time. Next one is how to combine cardio and weights without sabotaging your progress. Space out your workouts, prioritize the type of exercise based on your goals. Feel right. Can fasted cardio inhibit muscle growth? So Hart cites that the AMPK metabolic pathway that is activated during the energy depleted states like steady state cardiovascular training, particularly when performed fast. This could in turn down regulate the mTOR pathway and thus inhibit muscle growth. So it really depends. That's the annoying answer, isn't it, whenever these questions are brought up? Because it is such a vague question. Does cardio kill gains? Now, you look at a powerlifter, you look at a bodybuilder, you look at an Olympic weightlifter, you look at a crossfitter, world-class crossfitter. And what do you see? You see people who are hugely muscular. Now, crossfitters do a lot of cardio. They do a lot of cardio alongside weight training because they have to be so well rounded, they have to be explosive, but they have to be able to perform over a longer duration as well. If you look at a bodybuilder, they'll not really do that much steady state cardio. They might do a little bit. They're all about building as much muscle as possible. If you look at a powerlifter, they don't really care about cardio, they care more about strength. They don't really care about muscle mass either, although it kind of goes along with it in some ways, but they don't really care that much about whether this muscle's popping out or that muscle's popping out. They care about being able to put more plates in the bar. So it's interesting. Again, I as a general rule of thumb, to keep it really light, really simple, if you're not eating enough calories and you're trying to do cardio and you're trying to do weights, then you're probably not going to put on much muscle. Okay, if you're not eating enough calories, you're not eating enough protein either, you're not resting enough, you're not getting enough rest in between sessions, you're trying to jam too much into sessions, maybe start doing cardio in your class and then you finish off with weights. Well, your priority there is showing that it's going to be cardio. So if you're wanting to get better at running, there's no point in prioritizing your strength training. There's no point in doing your strength training at the start of the session and trying to finish off with your cardio. If you're trying to become stronger, there's no point in doing it the other way around. Okay, you want to make sure that your priority is in strength. So either train strength on separate days, give yourself plenty of recovery, or train strength at the start of the session. So it really does depend. Calories is a huge one though, but even if you get the calories in, there's some scientific backing that suggests that it's still very hard to put on muscle if you're doing lots and lots of cardio, because of how the adaptations occur in your muscles. Now, that's not to say you can't get stronger. You still can get stronger, and that will benefit your running, that will benefit your cardio, whether it's rowing or whatever. But putting on lots and lots of muscle is perhaps a different matter. And again, calories in, calories out is hugely important for that. Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully it's not too light on the explanation, but hopefully it's not too deep that you get bored and you've turned off by now. Our second news story this week, it's from the Irish Times, and it's called "Lift Yourself Up: The Healing Power of Strength Training." So obviously this caught my eye whenever I seen it. I saw it in one of the other newspapers. I think it was maybe the Times, or maybe it was one of the New York Times, like one of the New York newspapers anyway. One of the ones behind a paywall and I couldn't read it. Seen like the first paragraph and got frustrated, so I forgot about it. And then this popped up. So the Irish Times are letting us read it for free, but I'm giving them free publicity, so everyone's a winner. A growing number of people find that pumping iron boosts mood and well-being. When Sheng Zhu was serving in the Canadian Armed Forces as a paratrooper and infantry officer. I'm really sorry if I mispronounced your name there. He experienced a series of traumatic events in rapid succession. His best friend and fellow officer took his own life. A soldier under his command was injured during a live fire exercise, and a close friend's father was kidnapped. He felt like the world was collapsing around him everywhere except at the gym where he trained in competitive Olympic weightlifting. The only thing I had that anchored me was weightlifting, because that was the only place where I felt safe, said the 32-year-old, now a doctoral student in Toronto. Surrounded by the clinking and clanking of barbells, he slowly discovered what he described as the healing properties of strength training. Psychologists have long established that exercise is beneficial for mental health, and over the past decade, research has shown that it can be a valuable tool for addressing post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, despite weightlifting's associations with violent bursts of brawn, growing numbers of people who have experienced trauma or finding that pumping iron is a balm. It's very poetic language, isn't it, by this writer? It's written by Danielle Friedman, and this is on Sunday the 24th of July, if you want to look it up. So for many, the sports healing powers come down to the fact that where trauma has left them feeling helpless, powerless and weak, lifting helps them feel strong, not only physically but also psychologically. Lifting gave me a sense of agency, Zhu said. His name is XU. I don't know how to pronounce that. Any clues? Xu. It gave me a sense of control, and in time, he said, those feelings led to recovery. Pushing back. People who've experienced trauma have long gravitated toward the weight room, drawn in part to the promise of increased physical strength, but these lifters have historically received little guidance on how to train in a way that supports their mental health and recovery. Lifters have also had to navigate fitness culture that often glorifies a no pain, no gain approach, with a focus on performance and superficial appearances over long-term well-being. Yeah, unfortunately that is true. Unfortunately that is something that I think it's changing. I think it is. Hopefully it is, and hopefully we are part of the change here at Cross-Functional Fitness, but I know other gyms are as well. But sometimes focusing on performance is a good outlet. I wouldn't say it's an unhealthy one. But certainly that if you're going to perform well, you have to basically eat well, sleep well, recover well. Superficial appearances is a different matter. You can do all sorts of things to lose weight. There is a lot of toxic masculinity in strength training. Oh, here we go. It said James Whitworth, an exercise physiologist and health science specialist at the National Centre for PTSD and assistant professor at Boston University's Medical School, as well as a disabled combat veteran. But as more people of all genders, both genders, and abilities have discovered the benefits of strength training, the weightlifting community is becoming more inclusive and expansive. Mental health groups also have begun to formalise lifting as a therapeutic tool and educate trainers on how to coach clients living with physical and psychological trauma. At the same time, the scientific community is beginning to study why exactly some people with trauma find lifting heavy things helps them recover. You know, it's really funny, like they'll do all these studies, right, and they'll ask people and they'll evaluate for them, but they'll never actually try it themselves, right? They'll never actually get in the weight room and try it themselves. They'll keep their professor's coat on, most of them, and they'll ask people what they think about it, and try and get qualitative analysis and everything, but they'll not actually start picking up a barbell themselves and try and get stronger and feel for yourself the benefit, feel for yourself what it does for your psychology, what it does for your mental health, for your mood, for your confidence, as well as the physical side of it. There's something in weightlifting and working with resistance that builds resilience, said Chelsea Haverly, a social worker and founder of Hope Ignited, a US organisation dedicated to educating organisations and clinicians about trauma, not only in the brain but also in the body. Amen. Last year, Haverly and Emily Young, a social worker and personal trainer, created a trauma-informed weightlifting certification program for trainers in an effort to bring its mental health benefits to more clients. With lifting, Haverly said, it's not just I can do hard things, it's my body can do hard things. It's I have not felt strong and now I feel like a beast. Rachel Sloan, a 36-year-old respiratory therapist and mother of two, who was diagnosed with complex PTSD in early 2021 after enduring physical and sexual abuse, experienced this transformation firsthand. She initially turned to weightlifting out of the desire to take better care of her body, but the more she trained, the more safe she felt, calm, grounded outside the gym. I was not even attempting to use lifting as a means of managing my mental health, she said, but it gave me a means to physically push back against all of the fear and powerlessness I was feeling all of the time. That's amazing. That is an amazing testimony, I guess you could call it. It has also given her a growing memory bank of moments when I could move everything that was in my way. She says, after years of feeling helpless, it creates more experiences of feeling powerful and strong and capable. That's brilliant. That's so good to hear that. As more people with trauma affirm the benefits of lifting, Whitworth and other psychologists are working to better understand the psychological and neurological mechanisms behind its potential as a therapeutic tool. Improving someone's physical strength in a way that they can see and feel may be particularly potent for individuals with PTSD, said Whitworth, by helping to reframe their worldview as well as their views of themselves. While nearly every kind of exercise is beneficial for people with psychological trauma, Whitworth said they reap the most psychological benefits when they engage in moderate to high intensity training, which includes weightlifting. High intensity resistance training specifically has been shown to improve sleep quality and anxiety, which can improve overall health and well-being. And yet, people who have experienced trauma often avoid exercise entirely because of the physical stress response it can generate. A rapid pulse, heavy breathing, raised body temperature, which may remind them of their trauma. For this reason, helping patients find that type of exercise that feels right for them is essential. I remember I had a client, I think it was last year, and he suffered with anxiety. He explained it to me the very first time I met him, which is really brave to just turn up and tell this guy he'd never met before about it. But he felt that, so whenever he felt his heart rate starting to get up a bit and felt a bit sweaty and felt a bit, he was having to push very hard and all of those things, breathing heavy, he felt a bit of anxiety setting in. So we literally started him with the lightest weights, and he was able to work away, and he built himself up. He built his confidence up, and he was able to build up the tools psychologically. He had the physical strength, but he was lifting way lighter than he should have been or could have been, and he probably wanted to go a lot heavier. And he explained that to me before, that he wanted to go heavier and he knew he could go heavier, but he just needed to get over that psychological hurdle, and he did it, which was great. So it was great to be able to cater for that and be able to understand that a little bit better and be able to work with a client like that. So here, yoga is also recommended to people with trauma because of its focus on breathing and mindfulness, but it isn't for everyone. There's a whole cohort of people that are terrified of it or not drawn to it for any number of reasons, says Mariah Rooney, a social worker, yoga teacher and weightlifter. Some clients find that yoga's relative quiet and stillness can trigger anxiety, she said. That's crazy, isn't it? This client, actually, I was talking about, his anxiety was he liked a quieter, not like completely hush-hush, but he didn't want really loud, heavy music. Now, we always get criticised for our music and cross-functional fitness, but that's nothing new. But I assured him that we would not have the music absolutely blaring, would have it down at a level where we can still talk and we can still hear each other and not have to shout. So that was something that enabled him to step his foot through the door the first time and get going. In her 2021 book, Lifting Heavy Things, Healing Trauma One Rep at a Time, personal trainer and trauma survivor Laura Cowdary explained that one reason she and others connect with lifting is because it offers regular pauses in intensity, which allows them to check in with themselves and assess how they're feeling, which in turn helps them becoming overwhelmed. The breaks give your nervous system a chance to settle down, said Cowdary, who has also completed coursework in body-oriented trauma therapy and become a leading advocate of lifting as a form of healing. When we're dealing with trauma, our nervous system generally has less capacity for stress and also less resilience, she continued. And so you can use strength training to push on the edge of how much stress you can take. Over time, this can expand our window of tolerance. That's pretty much it, isn't it? Adaptation of the mind, of the body. For this reason, Whitworth and others said weightlifting might be a useful tool for people undergoing exposure therapy, during which therapists encourage patients to focus on their traumatic memories for short, controlled increments, not unlike the cyclic nature of strength training. Over time, this exposure can diffuse the memories as well as the related physical stress. The idea that they may be really anxious at first, Whitworth said, but over time, the idea is that they may be really anxious at first, Whitworth said, but over time, patients start to process the fact that those memories and feelings are not dangerous. Pairing this therapy with high intensity exercise, such as weightlifting, she said, might be particularly beneficial. For many people with trauma, weightlifting also helps them feel at ease with their bodies. As Renee explained, bodies are often the harbingers of trauma and holders of trauma, which leads to many people to experience a kind of mind-body disconnect. For example, if someone has experienced a physical trauma relating to their torso, they may feel detached from that part of their body as a coping mechanism, but weightlifting can help reconnect the mind and the body. Take the back squat, Rooney said, in which lifters hinge at the hips and knees while resting a weight on their shoulders. There's something about having, for example, a barbell on your back that's like, whoa, suddenly I feel my spine. I can feel the back of my body, and I don't remember the last time I felt the back of my body, she said. So that's about it. That's the end of it. So the article originally appeared in the New York Times. That's who it was, yeah. So New York Times wouldn't let us look at it. So thank you, Irish Times, for the content. But yeah, it's really interesting that. So if you're listening and you know someone who's experienced anxiety, has experienced some sort of trauma, maybe they've tried other types of exercise, they've never tried weightlifting, just start nice and gradually. Just start nice and slowly. Take it at your own pace. Don't force yourself. If you're going to work with a trainer, do explain this to your trainer, and they'll fully understand it, and they'll back you, they'll help you, they'll support you. Our next news story is on Sky News, and it was published on Tuesday the 26th of July. And this is by, does it give you who it's by? Sorry, it doesn't give you the author or the journalist, but it's called Outdoor Swimming to Treat Depression to be Trialled as Alternative to Drugs. Scientists want to examine the benefits for people with mental illness offered by ecotherapy, therapeutic intervention through nature. The mental health charity Mind already recommends this treatment. Prescribing outdoor swimming for depression is going to be trialled as an alternative to medication. Scientists want to examine the benefits for people with mental illness offered by ecotherapy, therapeutic intervention through nature. Experts from the University of Portsmouth will be working with Sussex Partnership NHS Foundation Trust to examine how a dip in nature compares to antidepressants. Exercise is already recommended by the NHS as a means to help with low moods for people who suffer with depression. Immersion in cold water has been shown to reduce stress levels, and our research is on for volunteers for this new study who will take part in a swimming course. Swimming lessons will take place in Parliament Hill in London, Lynches Lake in Worcestershire, and Saunton in North Devon. The results of the swimmers will be compared against a control group using existing treatments for depression. It comes as scientists and doctors re-examine their understanding of depression following research that suggests some of the mechanics of how the condition worked may be incorrect. A spokesman for the university. So that's interesting, isn't it? So sometimes our initial theories are wrong. Sometimes our initial assertions are wrong around studies, and we have to eat humble pie and correct them. How we all could learn from that, right? A spokesperson for the University of Portsmouth said, the study funded by the National Institute for Health and Care Research will provide preliminary support for using outdoor swimming as an alternative to antidepressants or talking therapies. Co-author Dr. Heather Massey from the University of Portsmouth Department of Sport, Health and Exercise Science said, in this new study we are looking at outdoor swimming as part of social prescribing, which looks to support members of the community who are self-referred or referred by a number of professional organisations to community activities that will support them. It's a step up in terms of scientific rigour. The mental health charity Mind already recommends ecotherapy. Its website says ecotherapy is a formal type of therapeutic treatment which involves doing outdoor activities in nature. So yeah, interesting little story. That one's not very long, but interesting one to keep an eye on. Certainly I know a whole bunch of people. I'm not saying this story doesn't mean that everybody out dipping in the sea is battling some sort of mental illness. Although we all, I guess, do to different degrees, right? We all battle mental issues to some degree. But I know loads of people who have been through the ringer. They've been addicted to all sorts of drugs and give them up, starting to do cold water therapy and stuff, dipping in the water daily, every other day. I know I couldn't even count them on one hand. I've need a few hands probably to count them all, but it seems to work. From an anecdotal point of view, I can give you loads of people, loads of stories, and it seems to be helping them, and I'm not entirely surprised. So it'll be interesting to see what the studies come back with. Be interested to see the ins and outs of it, so one to keep an eye on. It's time for Joke of the Week, everybody's favourite part. One time, a friend of mine got kidnapped by a group of mimes. They did unspeakable things to him. Right, that is about it. The end of the show. Thank you so much again for joining me. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one. Hopefully you haven't unsubscribed or switched off. Even worse. Thank you for still listening. Brilliant. It's fantastic. But if you know someone who is always saying about they're blaming their underactive thyroid, or they're blaming their slow metabolism, they're saying they're only overweight because they're getting older. I'm not saying like throw this into their inbox, but maybe just share some of the knowledge that has been shared in this with them in a very discreet, thoughtful, tasteful and kind manner. Don't be like telling them anything mean. That doesn't help anybody. But I think sometimes I can say stuff on this here because it's not directly to anybody personally. It's a hard job as a coach sometimes to look someone in the eye and just tell them what they don't want to hear, what that is the scientific truth. It's trying to not sugarcoat it, but you want to be real, but you don't want to be hurtful. You don't want them to go home feeling bad or feeling insecure or feeling unhappy with themselves. But at the same time, it's important that we tell the truth and that we are honest. But I think it's even more important how we do it, how we say it. So do share this generally, I guess, on Facebook. Feel free to share on Facebook, Instagram, etc. But don't ram it down anybody's throat or tell them to shut up about their thyroid or their underactive thyroid. Don't do that. But do share it. If you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. If you've got any better jokes for me, I'd love to hear those even more. But hopefully you have a great weekend, and don't forget to train today so you can be stronger tomorrow, and I'll catch you hopefully again next week.